And we say good evening to you. Welcome aboard. We're back around and time to do it again. It seems like just last week we were here, but we're right back ready to go for the Champion 5-Star Football Preview Show. And I'm I'm your host and along co-host Dave Angie. I'm Tom Taylor. Good afternoon. We got lots to talk about: high school football, college football. Right out of the chute, we'll tell you that the impending storm, Tropical Storm Nate, was going to impact, we thought, the Florida State-Miami game. Just got notification that game will be on at 3:30 on Saturday at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee. So the storm is coming. Looks like it's going to come in after the ball game. Then we'll go ahead and play that game on Saturday in Tallahassee. We're going to talk about that game coming up here in just a few minutes. So we're here thanks to the folks at Champion Chevrolet. Again, the number one Champion dealer in the state. There's 51, 52 Chevy dealers in the state. This one's number one. Sells more cars from Mountain City to Memphis, and the Chevy dealers in Memphis, Nashville, all the big boys, Chattanooga, Knoxville. And we be number one right here, and with good reason. For example, for the month of October, 2017 Silverado Crew Cab All-Stars, $11,000 off MSRP. Whew. The 2018 Trax are in. $4,500 off the MSRP, manufactured suggested retail price. Also, the 2017 Sonics and Spark LSs, 25% off the sticker right off the top. And also, you have the Equinox 2018s, the new ones, brand spanking new ones, redesigned 2018s. They're $6,000 off MSRP. And as Tim says on the commercial, how do they do that? And they do it because they flat wear it out. I told you I was up in West Virginia Monday with the show. We're broadcasting from Hardee's in Charleston, and a guy came up and said, "Yeah, I've been watching you on that Champion Chevrolet." He said, "They do have great deals?" I said, "Oh yeah, they have great deals." So he said, "I believe I'm going to drive down there." I said, "Worth the drive." And so they have folks from all over. In fact, they say the basic area for this franchise, for this dealership, the local is from Roanoke to Knoxville and anything in between. So they consider that local folks. That's how many folks come in here from out of town. Of course, the inside the Tri-City is very, very busy as well. And so we've got traffic in here already, or not already, but as we're winding down today, very busy in here every Thursday evening. We're in here doing the show. Folks come in here after work, and we're here again to the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview. We're joined again by my buddy Dave Angie, and woo, lots going on. Baseball, by the way, 2-2 fourth inning. Houston and the Red Sox in Houston. Game one of that American League Divisional Series. The Yankees and the Indians tonight in game two of the day in game one of that series. But 2-2 tie, fourth inning. Houston and Boston will keep you posted on that. Good afternoon or good evening, Dave Angie. How are you?
Man, I'm fantastic. Ready for football again this weekend?
Woo, ready to go.
Yep.
We've got lined up coming up here in just a few minutes. Joe Avento is going to join us with the East Tennessee State Robert Morris preview. He'll join us by phone at 6:30, bottom of the hour. Dave's going to talk to our buddy Doug Fritz from the Johnson City Press, all the high school football games. There's some good ones this week, too. There's good ones every week. A little bit later on, Chris McCall joins us right here in the studio, inside the showroom, again at Champion Chevrolet, previewing the Virginia Tech-Boston College football game. Hokies on the road to BC this coming Saturday. We'll let Chris tell you all about that. At 7 o'clock, Carmichael joins Dave by phone to give you the top 5 college football games of the week across the board of the big boys. And then at 7:30, Kevin Harmon joins us by phone. He's our UT stringer, and he's going to tell us what's wrong in Knoxville. Apparently a lot is wrong in Knoxville with Butch Jones and the Tennessee Volunteers. They have a much-needed week off before they entertain Will champion his South Carolina Gamecocks coming up a week from Saturday. And Dave, let's talk about that for just a second. You know, Tennessee gets a reprieve. They don't have anybody in that rugged SEC, and South Carolina this week. I think they should win this game, but they've got Arkansas and Columbia, so while the Vols are getting a week off to kind of refocus and kind of get their act together for the second half of the season, South Carolina's in a tussle with Arkansas.
Well, you know, we talked about that, in the week leading up to the Georgia game, though, because Tennessee had UMass, and everybody thought, well, UMass coming in here, they're going to kick them around, get some rest in the second half, and then they'll be ready next week. Meanwhile, Georgia's going to be in a dogfight, no pun intended, against the Bulldogs of Mississippi State. As it turned out, Georgia just wiped the floor with them, and really put it to Mississippi State, and then rolled into Knoxville with that momentum and took care of business. So, I don't know. With South Carolina, the one thing you want to watch for, they really can't absorb many more injuries. The injury bug has bit them hard. Obviously you lose a quarterback, that's a huge deal. The thing people remember last year, Tennessee had a bye week going into the South Carolina game, playing a true freshman quarterback, 17-year-old kid. They go in there and lose that game, and a lot of people really, that's when things started to turn a little bit against Butch Jones with the team last year, that everybody was expecting to win the East. They were picked to win the East, and that's when I think the tide turned on them a little bit. So here we are again, bye week, heading into South Carolina. When you have a bye week, it needs to be an improvement week. They need to get better. They have a lot of areas to do that, and then we'll see how it is when they show up against the Gamecocks.
Here's the SEC schedule for this week. Alabama at Texas A&M, as we said, Arkansas at South Carolina. Auburn will be hosting Ole Miss. Florida taking on LSU in Gainesville down to the Swamp. Georgia going to Vanderbilt. Is that a gimme? Is that a guaranteed win for Georgia? Can Vanderbilt give them some trouble?
Well, it's going to be a measuring stick game, I think, because we saw what Alabama did up there at Vanderbilt, and people are trying to figure out where's Georgia at compared to Alabama right now, because I think people are saying Georgia has elevated themselves. The Bulldogs now are the top team in the East. People feel pretty good about that. Think that's a pretty clear break between them and everybody else. So if they go in there and they have trouble with Vanderbilt, that kind of shows us they're nowhere near Alabama. So we can start kind of making some comparisons there. Vandy, they didn't play well against Alabama. I was surprised their defense didn't limit Alabama a little bit more than they did. So, that's going to be an intriguing game for sure this week.
Kentucky playing host to Missouri and Lexington again. We told you Ole Miss is going to be at Auburn. I think we got them all covered in the Southeastern Conference. Mississippi State, by the way, a much needed after 2 losses in a row. They've been outscored. Let's see. 31 and 49 would be 80.
80, yes.
80-13 over the last 2 games to Georgia and Auburn. Whew.
Yep, that's and that shows you where LSU's at too, because the only reason Mississippi State was looked at the way they were looked at is because they took it to LSU. LSU came into the season as a ranked football team. That seems like ancient history now, but it was the case. And then, of course, LSU has shown us since then they're not a very good football team. And they are the worst that you can have out of a football team, which is soft. They're a soft team. I think they have a lot of talent, but they just are playing soft right now, and that's a cultural thing they need to get fixed down there in Baton Rouge, because that's one thing a football coach will never abide from his football team is if they're soft.
If you're in the mood to win $25, why don't you do the picking panel between now and midnight tonight? We cut it off tonight for this week. TomTaylorSports.com/football. Here are the pick and panel games this week. Before I give you our picks, we'll run them down for you again here in just a second. But again, we tell you that TomTaylorSports.com/football. Last week, Brenda Byram from Elizabethton was our winner. Won herself $25. And here's the games we're picking this week. We were 8 for 10 last week, Dave and I, two-headed monsters. So whatever we say, run with it, because we're going to probably win you some money. All we need on that, by the way, TomTaylorSports.com/football. Need your first name, your last name, your town you're from, and the email address. If you win, or when you win, I guess the way you want to look at it, we'll be able to get a hold of you pretty quickly. So West Virginia, Texas Christian University, TCU, the Mountaineers, Horned Frogs, we took TCU.
We did, yeah, definitely. Like we were talking about that being a high-scoring game, I believe that'll be the case. I think TCU is the team that'll make a stop at the end to get the win.
Miami, Florida State is on 3:30 on Saturday at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee. We took the Hurricanes.
Yeah, Florida State, since their quarterback went down first game of the year, they haven't really shown me anything. They're still kind of scrambling to try to find their identity, especially on offense. I think Miami's a team that's on the rise right now.
LSU will be at Florida in the Swamp. Dave and I tell you, if you're going to do the picking panel, take the Gators.
They are. There's no style points. They're bowling shoe ugly, as we said earlier, but they're winning football games, and they're finding ways to do it late. On the flip side, LSU's a football team that just don't seem to have the same grit.
Bowling shoe ugly.
Bowling shoe ugly.
Woo! I never heard that before. It's a new one. Alabama, Texas A&M. Guess who we took? The Crimson Tide. Roll Tide into College Station. Is this a resume game for Kevin Sumlin? He's already on the hot seat. If they get beat, which most folks think they're going to, that's one thing. If they get hammered, that's something else.
Well, here's the deal, and it's a golden ticket game, like on the old Willy Wonka movie. If he wins this one, he's got a job next year. I mean, he's gonna get to keep running the factory there, for another year. They're gonna let him keep coaching football, because that would be a huge win for them. I think it would be a sign that program is going in the right direction, because Alabama right now, you can't get any higher than them when it comes to national perception. So yeah, a big opportunity game for A&M. They're at home. They're going to be swinging for the fences. It's not going to be enough, because Alabama's going to win that one. Champion
Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview Show live inside the studio, inside the showroom here at Champion Chevrolet. And again, we would tell you, you have $11,000 off the 2017 Silverado Crew Cab All-Stars. $11,000 off when you walk in that door right there and say, I want to take a look, and start talking shop on a 2000 Silverado Crew Cab. pretty strong. Not $1,100, $11,000 you walk through that door off MSRP. Last college game, we said Michigan State, Michigan, the bragging rights of the state of Michigan. We said all the way, because he's a huge Wolverine fan. Go Wolverines.
It's going to be Michigan. The Paul Bunyan Trophy is going to stay home. That's going to, I think you're looking at two teams with really suspect offensive lines, but Michigan's defense is unbelievably good. Number one in the country in most categories, if not all categories, again this year. It's going to be too hard for Michigan State to score any points, and Michigan's going to get away with a win.
Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview. This thing is, of course, big on this. This show will be archived, so you can put it right up and watch it tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, even Saturday morning. The high school picks, of course, you have until midnight tonight to do the picking panel. High school picks tomorrow, Hardin Valley at Science Hill. We took the Hilltoppers here in Johnson City.
Yeah, we definitely did, and that's something when we go through the preview later, we'll start looking at offensive and defensive numbers for these teams this year, and you'll see that Hardin Valley struggles to score points. Science Hill scored points rather easily. So, I think in the high school game, you look at it, who can put points on the board. I think Science Hill does it a little more easily. They're at home. It's a long bus ride from Hardin Valley because I drove my car down there, and I know it was a long ride for me. When I got out, my knees were sore, my feet were sore. I couldn't have played football. Of course, I'm an older man, but, still, it's going to take its toll on those kids rolling up the interstate.
We've been on there about 10 minutes. We've had Willie Wonka and old knees, and this guy's on the roll today. He's got him, he's feeling it. Farragut at Dobbins Minute, defending state champion. They've won 19 in a row. They'll be at J. Fred Johnson Stadium tomorrow night. We said take the Admirals.
Yeah, this is the type of football game I love. I flat out love it because you have two teams. They're both going in. Coaches aren't going to have to, when they talk to the media and do their previews, they're not going to beat around the bush. They're going to tell you they want to establish the run. I love physical football, and both of these teams are going to try to just force their will on the other one through the running game. I think Farragut, after what I saw against Science Hill last week, is the team most likely to do that. Whoever wins the time of possession and the turnover battle probably going to win this one. I think Farragut has a better chance of doing that.
Two more in the picking panel. Again, we said Cocke County at Tennessee High, the Stone Castle tomorrow night. If you want to win some money, ride this pony and this Dave and Tom pony and take Tennessee High.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to take Tennessee High in that one. I think, they've impressed me how they turned around. They had a rough start to the season, and, they dug in and they got tough, and they've played well since. They righted the ship, and that Viking ship's going to be good enough to get a win.
Last game to pick, again, Crockett at Cherokee, the Pioneers and the Gerald Sensabaugh clicking. They're going to be in Rogersville tomorrow night to battle the Cherokee Chiefs. For us on the picking panel, you want to win. You want to win $25. Take what we say to do, and you go in there and pick Crockett.
Yeah, it's going to be Crockett. It's going to be another one of those shootouts, so it's going to be fun to watch. They're going to be a lot of offense, a lot of yards, a lot of points on the scoreboard. But I think you look at the quarterback situation there at Crockett. The Larkins kid, he can throw it. He's got a lot of guys out there that can catch it. So, they've showed some things this year. I think they're going to get a win. And the one we didn't talk about too, we left out the game of the week: Johnson County Happy Valley.
Oh, we did. You're right. Yeah, skip right over it.
Yeah, I think that's the game of the week. That one's going to be really intriguing. You look at two teams that have blown out some good opponents this year. Down there on Warrior Hill, man, it's going to be packed. There's going to be some people up there this Friday. Going to be a great atmosphere, great environment. I have to give the edge to Johnson County. Quarterbacks for both teams, outstanding. The offense is going to be outstanding both ways, but I think Johnson County, that's just a special group of athletes up there in Mountain City. That's a good class of seniors they have there, that group. They're going to do just enough to get that win.
As we go to the break, here's your rankings this week. 6A football, Murfreesboro, Oakland, number 1. Science Hill gets honorable mention from our neck of the woods. 5A football, Beach at number 1. Daniel Boone at number 9 this week. 4A, Greenville, number 1. The Elizabethton Cyclones at number 4. 3A football, Alcoa, number 1. The Johnson County Longhorns we just referred to is ranked 3rd this week. 2A football, Meigs County at number 1. Happy Valley, the Warriors at number 9. We just talked about them. And then single A football, South Pittsburgh, number 1. And Cloudland in at number 9 this week. So that's the picking panel. We'll run down the complete schedule. High school football coming up here in a few minutes. We'll take our first break, come right back. We'll be joined by Joe Vento talking Buck football. The Bucks back home, taking on Robert Morris for homecoming on Saturday. We'll talk to Joe coming up next year on the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview. Blue Lizard Australian Sunscreen originated in Australia, where sunscreen standards are the strictest in the world. Although our products are now manufactured here in the U.S., we continue to adhere to the most stringent Australian standards to offer the best in broad-spectrum sun protection. Blue Lizard, the brand most recommended by pediatricians and dermatologists. Our smart bottle turns blue in the presence of UV rays, reminding you to cover up. You bring the sun, Blue Lizard brings the magic.
It's Chevy Truck Month, Take 2 at Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City. The savings and selection of over 600 new Chevys to choose from are at an all-time high. 1500 All-Star Crew, $11,000 off. 1715 All-Star Double Cab, $10,000 off. 18 Equinox LT, $5,000 off. 17 Traction Traverse, $5,000 off. Shop us online 24/7 and remember our Saturday parts and service hours. Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City, where we leave you asking, how do they do that?
At Bristol Orthotics and Prosthetics, they treat thousands of patients each year dealing with diabetes and its effects. Diabetes overtaking our nation and leaving a path of destruction behind. Through wound care, office visits, and preventive care, they see most of the patients after a problem arises. Using diabetic footwear such as shoes and inserts, a great way to prevent or prolong skin breakdown and amputation. At Bristol Orthotics and Prosthetics, they use only custom molds from patient mold inserts, which further ensure a great recovery, or better yet, prevents a wound from happening. They use custom molded shoes, bracing, custom inserts, and extra depth diabetic shoes to prevent wounds or other skin issues from beginning. Call today, 1-800-524-4447. 39 years, 6 locations, 1 family. Bristol Orthotics and Prosthetics, 1-800-524-4447.
Any day is a good day to get a tray from Chick-fil-A. Over 10 to choose from. Perfect for having the gang over to watch the big game, birthday parties, church get-togethers, backyard gatherings, everything from fruit trays to garden salad trays to nuggets and chicken strip trays. And for the sweet tooth, try the cinnamon cluster or chocolate chunk cookie tray. So you see, any day is a good day to get a tray from Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A at the Crossings in North Johnson City.
At FCA, we're touching millions one heart at a time. Since 1954, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes has been putting the heart and soul in sports by challenging athletes and coaches to impact the world for Jesus Christ. As the largest sports ministry in the world, FCA now reaches over 2 million people annually on the professional, college, high school, junior high, and youth levels. Through this shared passion for athletics and faith, lives are changed, one heart at a time. Learn more at fca.org.
Back live with the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview Show. Again, we do this every week. We're live on Facebook. We're live on the website, TomTaylorSports.com. Of course, we archive this show. Go back and watch it tomorrow. It's being recorded, and we, again, save it and put it up so you can go back and watch it again and again and again, or at least once. If you can't get to it tonight, lots going on. Let's go to the phone. He's there, our buddy Joe Vento, the sports writer for the Johnson City Press, who covers the East Tennessee State Buccaneer football team. And, Joe, good afternoon, or actually good evening, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great, Tom. How are you doing?
Just fine, sir. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate this. You do a phenomenal job every time we have you on every Thursday. So let's jump in there and go. The Bucs back home after losing in Furman. It's homecoming on Saturday. Let's talk about the Bucs and the Colonials of Robert Morris coming to town. Give me a preview.
Well, these two teams played a couple of years ago, and it was a very close game up in the suburbs of Pittsburgh. This was ETSU's first season back in the football business. And with a couple of minutes left in the game, ETSU was actually winning. They'd only kicked 3 field goals, but it was 9-6. And Robert Morris scored a couple of touchdowns in the last 3 minutes to pull away and win. And that was the one that ETSU felt like it got away, because that was the one game against an FCS opponent that season that they had a chance to win. And they didn't pull it out. So nobody's really talking revenge because it's 2 years later. But they just want another crack at him for sure.
That's what they're going to get. And, you know, we talked about this Wednesday. You were nice enough to stop by the show and be with us Wednesday at Chick-fil-A. But this football team's coming. I guess that's they've kind of turned the corner. I think the program under Carl Torbush, and I think they're making great strides. And you see them every week. You agree as well, do you not?
Yeah, they're making progress. There's so many different ways you can judge the progress, and they constantly talk about measuring sticks. And last year I think they got 10 points against Furman. This year they got 35. They didn't win the game, and really when it came right down to it, they didn't have much of a chance at the end. Although they had an onside kick where if they got the ball, they could have maybe cut it to a 1-touchdown game. But yeah, they're making progress. Like I keep saying, they look bigger and better. They have some deficiencies that they keep saying they're going to try to correct, and a couple of them they have, and a couple of them it looks like that's going to be harder to get done this season than originally thought.
We're talking to our buddy again, Joe Vento of the Johnson City Press. Let's talk about the quarterback for the Bucs, a special young man that did a special thing last Saturday. Tell me about it.
Well, ETSU has had some prolific passers throughout the years. Greg Ryan, Todd Wells, these guys threw for a lot of yards, but nobody had ever thrown for 400 yards in a game, according to the record book. And Austin Herring did it last week. He threw for 434 yards, which was made even more remarkable by the fact that he had no running game, so there was no fear of the run in the Furman defense. So they were just rushing the passer, and the other part of that was he was just getting hammered the whole game, and he got punished. And I even wrote about how he'd remember that game for a long time, maybe as much for the pain as much as getting all the records. But he threw for 434 yards, and maybe even more impressively, he was able to stand and talk to us after the game.
We're talking again to Joe Vento, the Johnson City Press, talking ETSU Robert Morris preview. So you look at this football team, Joe, they've played some pretty tough competition. They, of course, played the Citadel, played them tough. They got hammered pretty good by James Madison, gave Furman a good accounting. They got some tough teams ahead, but Robert Morris typically bring a team in for homecoming. You feel like got a pretty good chance to win when all the alumni come back to town and so on and so forth, and everybody has a special day. So what are the keys for the Bucs to win on Saturday against Robert Morris to win the homecoming game?
Well, you talk about homecoming. First of all, I saw a really funny tweet during the week. It was a tweet to LSU from Troy, and it just said, "Hey, LSU, thanks for having us all down for homecoming. We sure had a good time." So, just because you're picked on the homecoming as the homecoming opponent doesn't mean you're gonna lay down and die. In fact, Carl Torber said it last year that when they get chosen as the homecoming opponent, where they did last year at Mercer, I believe it was, the players like nothing better than to go ruin the other team's homecoming. So Robert Morris will be coming in here knowing that they were picked for the homecoming opponent for a reason, and they're going to come in and try to prove that reason wrong. The keys for ETSU to win the game, I would say, would be to run the ball just a little bit. Because last week they had 22 yards on 28 carries. That's crazy, and that's just not enough. And of course, the rushing stats get skewed by the sacks. Herring got sacked 6 times, and in college football, the sacks go against the rushing total of the quarterback. So you take the sacks out, they actually ran the ball a little bit better than that, but not terribly great. So they need to run the ball better. Herring needs to continue to be an accurate passer, and if they protect him a little bit, he could have a field day. That's what I'm kind of looking for. I would bet that they spent an awful lot of this week just trying to shore up the pass protection.
We're talking to Joe Vento. Let's switch gears before I let you go. By the way, kickoff was at what time on Saturday for the Bucs?
Kickoff's at 3:30.
3:30 is going to be a hot Saturday afternoon before this rain comes in here, so I would anticipate tailgating, first homecoming game at the new stadium. I would expect a big house, a lot of blue and gold, and a lot of tailgating going on. What do you think?
Yeah, and they're averaging something like 8,200 people, which is 600 people more than they have seats for, so that's a good sign. And I got an alert from ETSU today that the student allotment of seats has been basically sold out, but they allow the students to come in anyway and use the standing room areas as well. And there's still some seats available before they start selling the standing room only tickets. But if you want to go to the game, they still have a ticket for you. So contact the ETSU ticket office.
Talking to Joe Vento before I let you go. Let's switch gears. Since last week we had you on the show, the Buccaneers have started their basketball practice, and we know what kind of a year Steve Forbes had with his men's team, and Brittany Zell's the Buccaneers. See, I don't know how to do that. We said yesterday, Lady Bucks and Bucks. They're still the lady. I can't differentiate. It's not sexist.
You call them whatever you want. I just can't do it.
Thank you.
I can't give it.
Bucks and Lady Bucks both started practice. Tell me a little bit about both things before I let you go.
Well, we'll start with the women. Deanna Tarter is coming off just a tremendous season, and she's literally one of the best players they've ever had in the history of the program. So if anybody's not gotten a chance to see her play, I would strongly suggest they go out and catch a game early in the season. You just might get hooked. She's worth the price of admission just to watch her play. And she's a local girl, and she's just great to watch. She has so many different skills. And unfortunately, her running mate, Bridges from last year, is gone. And so she's really going to have to do a lot of scoring. And when it comes right down to it, she's going to have to carry that team. And there's no two ways about it. But she's proven she's capable of doing that. So if she gets a little bit of help, they could be okay. Okay, now the men's team. That's what everybody remembers last year, the Southern Conference Championship team playing in the NCAA tournament. They've lost a lot of players. He's brought in a lot of new players, and as has been Steve Forbes' MO the first two seasons, bringing in new players is no big deal for him. He coaches them up and gets them going, and those players have already had 40-something practices since June. They were allowed a couple hours a week. So he's had a lot of 40-minute practices, and they tell me they are gelling together, that they're a family. They do a lot of stuff together, and they're not too worried about who scores. It's going to be a team effort, and with 10 new players, we just don't know yet how it's going to shake out. I mean, so somebody just that we're not expecting could jump up and become the leader.
It's going to be exciting. Joe Vento, great report, my friend. Kickoff again Saturday afternoon. One more time is at 3:30. Robert Morris, the Colonials, in town for the Bucks homecoming at William B. Green Jr. Stadium. Should be a great crowd, and we'll read about your counting on Sunday, the Johnson City Press. Great report, my friend. Thank you as always.
Okay, Tom, anytime. I'll talk to you later. Have
Yes,
a good
sir.
night.
Great job, Joe Vento, again with the Johnson City Press. Appreciate him very, very much. Doing a superb job as always. We're live here at Champion Chevrolet, getting ready to take a break, and we come back. It'll be Dave Onge talking to his buddy Doug Fritz about the high school football games this week. Again, before we go to the break, reminding you, you can shop online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at championjc.com. Also, you have the 2018 tracks. They're in. The 18s are in. $4,500 off MSRP right off the top on the 2018 tracks. Also, the 2017 Chevrolet Malibus. I got to get them out of here. 23% off the sticker on the MSRP from the 2017 Cruze and Malibus here at Champion Chevrolet. Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City, where Tim and all the folks leave you asking, how do they do that? So, good stuff. And again, don't forget that 2017 Silverado Crew Cab All-Stars, $11,000 off MSRP. As soon as you walk through those doors, you getting ready to buy yourself a Silverado Crew Cab, $11,000 off MSRP here at Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile here in Johnson City. Quick break. We'll come right back. As promised, Dave Onge talks to Doug Fritz. Big high school football preview. Big night for high school football tomorrow night. Weather's going to be, again, very, very summer-like tomorrow evening. It's going to be upper 70s, even flirting with the 80s again tomorrow. So tomorrow night's kickoff is going to be in the 60s. Very, very pleasant for early October. We'll take it. We'll talk high school football. Dave Onge and Doug Fritz next here on the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview.
At FCA, we're touching millions one heart at a time. Since 1954, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes has been putting the heart and soul in sports by challenging athletes and coaches to impact the world for Jesus Christ. As the largest sports ministry in the world, FCA now reaches over 2 million people annually on the professional, college, high school, junior high, and youth levels. Through this shared passion for athletics and faith, lives are changed, one heart at a time. Learn more at fca.org.
It's Chevy Truck Month, Take 2 at Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City. The savings and selection of over 600 new Chevys to choose from are at an all-time high. 1500 All-Star Crew, $11,000 off. 1715 All-Star Double Cab, $10,000 off. 18 Equinox LT, $5,000 off. 17 Traction Traverse, $5,000 off. Shop us online 24/7 and remember our Saturday parts and service hours. Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City, where we leave you asking, how do they do that?
At American Import Auto Repair in Johnson City, one of the 8 areas of your vehicle that takes constant continuing education is the air conditioner on your vehicle.
Well, you would think that AC would be a simple one, but it's getting to be a lot bigger than just AC. It's the management of the system, not just AC, but heat and everything. It's a lot more computer controlled than it used to be. It used to be just a little button on the dash that you pushed. Now there's all kinds of electronics involved in that. Braking systems used to be fairly simple. Now some of the newer vehicles, you have to have a computer to actually operate the braking system to make sure that it's okay after you've worked on it. Computer controlled of the engine is becoming very important. There's a lot to that. Each one of these areas, the technology has just tripled and quadrupled in the last few years. It's hard to keep up. You really need to stay in the books and know what's going on with them.
American Import Auto Repair, Johnson City, open 6 days a week. Call today at 913-3111.
From the driveways where your kids play basketball and ride their bicycles, to the parking lots at your local church or grocery store, Bracken Paving is an important part of many neighborhoods in our area. No matter how large or how small the job, Bracken strives for excellence in every service they provide. It's a foundation for a strong community. Discover the difference at Bracken Paving and Asphalt Maintenance. Give us a call or visit us online at brackenpaving.com.
Your life is always changing. You never know what shape it will take, or how your financial needs might change. But if we talk about your investments and how they can provide for you and your family, the future becomes clear. At Wells Fargo Advisors, we believe conversation leads to financial clarity. Let's start a conversation today.
We're back on the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview. Always exciting to talk to my buddy here, Doug Fritz. Doug, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Dave?
Oh, fantastic, man. Just excited about some football again this week. It's a lot of good games, a lot of intriguing games, I think, on the schedule. Just looking it over, I think Johnson County at Happy Valley is a game that really jumps out to me. Two excellent football teams, and it looks like it's going to be a great environment up there on the hill there on Friday night. Tell me kind of what you know going into this one.
Well, it's a really hard game to try and get a real good feel on who's going to wind up winning it, because on one hand, you got Johnson County sitting there undefeated, and obviously they've done everything they needed to do this season. They've got a real good defense. They've got a powerful offense. They can run it. They can throw it. They can tackle you. And, and they're the 3A team. But now you start factoring in they're on the road against a team that's undefeated against Division I schools. I think you can just throw out the loss to Grace Christian last week, because that's a private school. It doesn't make any difference. And Happy Valley was in it right till the very end. And Happy Valley's got a really, really good defense, and they've got an offense that can move the ball, and they can run and throw. And they're at home. I mean, so you start just factoring all these things together. It's really hard to get a grip on who's going to win. I went back and forth on this thing, trying to figure out what I thought would happen.
Yeah, it's you look at Happy Valley, and that team is. I'm just so impressed with them this year because of the fact that they lost so many key players off last year's team, and I think a lot of people kind of discounted them a little bit out of the gates and said, well, obviously they're going to be rebuilding this year, but they really, as you mentioned, just one loss there, and it's to a private school, and they really haven't missed a beat. I think that says a lot about where their program's at the moment.
I think it does. It says a lot about Jason Jarrett, but also Jason Jarrett has surrounded himself with football people that know what they're doing. And just to mention a couple, Randy Farrell and Greg Hyder. I mean, this is a good staff, and Jarrett's a good leader, and the kids, he relates to the kids, and they connect with him, and they play hard for him. And, I just think that this is, I think Happ Valley's going in feeling like they should win, and Johnson County's going in feeling like they should win. And when you get that and kind of a little old-fashioned rivalry, it just makes for a good night of high school football.
Yeah, it definitely will be, and keeping it in the county a little bit there. Of course, Elizabethton just kind of rolling along, and I don't think there's anybody anywhere that doesn't expect them to roll on again this week. But again, you get that factor of having to hit the road, travel a little bit. It's kind of a long trip down to Union County. But tell me kind of how you size up that ball game and how you see Elizabethton at this point of the year.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I did my preview, and I bet you can't guess what the first word of my preview was. I kind of put you on the spot there. First word of my preview is Greenville. And that's the thing. Elizabethton's going down to play Union County, but their sights are set, focused. They're focused on Greenville. And I know that the coaches don't want to hear that, but and the kids have to fight it, and maybe I can't see into their mind and know exactly what I think, but I know what all the fans are thinking. Let's get this game over with against Union County so Greenville can come to Elizabethton next week. And that doesn't mean Elizabethton's going to go down there and maybe they'll have trouble or anything like that, but that's just how big that Greenville game is. And what they do this week against Union County is going to set a tone. And what Greenville does in their game is going to set a tone. And these teams, Greenville's got a little bit different situation with the opponent they're facing, but this is a game where Elizabethton wants to go down and do everything right for a half and then rest their starters and start really thinking about Greenville.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't think they can lose this game, but you definitely don't want to go down there and lose momentum, and that's something I'm sure that'll be on the mind of that coaching staff. Another game that kind of sticks out to me this week when you look at David Crockett headed down to play at Cherokee. Two teams that I think could put points on the board, and I expect this one to be kind of a high-scoring game. I kind of have Crockett with a little bit of an advantage in this ball game. How do you see this one unfolding?
Well, it's the first week off that. Gerald Sensabaugh's had to go through as a head coach, and it'll be interesting to see how his team comes out of that. A lot of these well-coached football teams come out of these bye weeks and just, they've really got it humming and they're ready to go, and they've got a 2-week game plan in place, and it's just click, 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 and everything goes right. And, Crockett needs a little bit of that because Cherokee, like you said, the type of team can put points on the board. And Crockett can't go down there thinking, hey, we get 27-28, we got this thing in the bag. I think they're going to have to get into the 30s to win this game. And, to do that, you score 30 points in the ballgame, you're going to be doing some good things on offense. So Crockett needs to play well, or this is a game they could get upset. There's no doubt about that, but Crockett is a favored team.
Yeah, it's obviously the passing game that Crockett's leaned on. I mean, that's no secret. You look at Larkins throwing the ball around, and kind of a lot of guys down there seems like catching the football. That passing attack and the ability to stretch the field, I imagine that's been the thing that's made Crockett's offense so successful so far this early.
It really is. I mean, John Colley is an outstanding receiver, and Michael Robinson's an outstanding receiver, and Cade Larkins has thrown for 1,445 yards and 10 touchdowns. And Crockett doesn't come up and hammer you with the ball on the ground. Although Prince Colley's a type of running back who can have a big game. Crockett's got what Sensabaugh's needs to work what he wants to work as a head coach and to be. A pass-first team, which he said in the preseason they would be, and that's certainly played out. They've gotten the majority of their yards through the air. And, the only thing about that, that's fine as long as the weather's good and it's not raining sideways and the wind's blowing. So we'll see. It looks good for this week, another good week for Crockett. I expect them to do well, but again, it's a game that could be a little bit of a trap for them if they don't play well.
Yeah, I remember, covering football down at Cherokee, of course, Coach Seibert down there for years, and his thing about passing, he would always say, when you throw the football, 3 things can happen, only 3 things, and 2 of them are bad. He wasn't much for throwing the football. Of course, Crockett's making a living with it so far, so it'll be interesting to see if they can keep making a living that way. You go up to the Stone Castle this weekend. Tomorrow night you're looking at Tennessee High and Cott County, and if you want to see how quickly a season can turn for teams, it seems like not long long ago, Cocke County was an undefeated team, off to a great start. You know, they've kind of struggled since then. You know, Tennessee High was not impressive out of the gates, had some trouble early, but they seem to have turned it around a little bit. So it seems to be kind of two teams who have gone in different directions here since the start of the season.
Yeah, and Tennessee High is the type of team. They've got enough talent that you can't sleep on them. In this Region 1-5A, there's no big dog. There's no team that nobody can beat. I mean, you've got basically Boone, Crockett, Tennessee High, and Cherokee kind of sitting there, and because of that, Tennessee High is still in the picture here. You know, this is the type of game where they got to. This has got to be a take care of business game for them. Cocke County hit the skids after a 3-0 start, lost 3 in a row. Tennessee High needs to go out there and whip them. And then they've got Crockett, if I'm not mistaken, the next week. So, you know, they could be right in this dance here right up till the end, even though they've already lost to Daniel Boone. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But, yeah, Tennessee is a team that's still in the mix, still kind of hovering around. Could be a factor here in the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah, Sullivan East had a rough week last week. You know, they're going to be back home this week and have Sullivan Central coming to town. And looks like an opportunity for Sullivan East to kind of keep that bad momentum from building a little bit, a chance for them to bounce back and get a win. Fairly young football team. I guess the question in this game is how Sullivan East bounces back from the performance last week.
Yeah, you know, they just, you know, need to shake that off. And Central's not the type of team that's been threatening anybody, but, you know, Sullivan East isn't good enough to walk in against Sullivan Central and think, okay, here's your 27th loss in a row. Sullivan East has got to go in thinking we need to put this game away early, and if we don't, we're giving a county rival a chance to shock people. So, you know, East will have to go in with the right mindset. They'll have to execute, and I think that they're fine for this game because I really think that Michael Locke's an excellent coach, and I think he'll have him ready for this. And on a side note, when I was trying to figure out how many weeks were left in the regular season, I stumbled there for a minute, and, you know, I never did like week 0, but now that you have to think in terms of week 11 for the regular season, it's confusing to me. So maybe week 0 wasn't so bad because then you ended in week 10.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't. Yeah, it's it always threw my math off pretty bad, but yeah, we got to change the whole nomenclature around that whole thing now. So last game we'll look at here, big game in Greene County. You have North Greene, and they'll be on the road there at South Greene. We've seen kind of good and bad out of South Greene this season so far. You know, as these two teams lock up here, how do you see it playing out this weekend?
Well, for both teams, there is good and bad, but unfortunately, you got about 20% good and about 80% bad. That's the bad news. The good news is that one of these teams is going to have a happy Friday night again because DWCA rule says you can't have a tie, so somebody's got to win this thing, and you know, it's just two teams that are a little overmatched at the level they're at, especially North Greene, and you know, the decisions that they made to move up. And so it's a tough year, but it's a good rivalry. And when these county schools, you know, go up against each other and they're hungry for a win, there's going to be no shortage of competitiveness between these two teams. And it should be, for the fans of those schools and for the players, it should be a fun night.
Yeah, definitely a lot of pride on the line there. It'll be fun to see how all these games turn out. And a great report from you. And again, appreciate your time. Enjoyed talking to you. And have fun out there tomorrow night.
All right. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, folks, we're going to take a commercial here really quick. We're going to come back with Chris McCall. He's going to talk about the Virginia Tech game. They're going to play really tough defense up there at Boston College. It'll be fun to hear him break that matchup down. So we'll be back right after this on the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview.
At FCA, we're touching millions one heart at a time. Since 1954, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes has been putting the heart and soul in sports by challenging athletes and coaches to impact the world for Jesus Christ. As the largest sports ministry in the world, FCA now reaches over 2 million people annually on the professional, college, high school, junior high, and youth levels. Through this shared passion for athletics and faith, lives are changed, one heart at a time. Learn more at FCA.org.
It's Chevy Truck Month, Take 2 at Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City. The savings and selection of over 600 new Chevys to choose from are at an all-time high. 1500 All-Star Crew, $11,000 off. 1715 All-Star Double Cab, $10,000 off. 18 Equinox LT, $5,000 off. 17 Traction Traverse, $5,000 off. Shop us online 24/7 and remember our Saturday parts and service hours. Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City, where we leave you asking, how do they do that?
At American Import Auto Repair in Johnson City, one of the 8 areas of your vehicle that takes constant continuing education is the air conditioner on your vehicle.
Well, you would think that AC would be a simple one, but it's getting to be a lot bigger than just AC. It's the management of the system, not just AC, but heat and everything. It's a lot more computer controlled than it used to be. It used to be just a little button on the dash that you pushed. Now there's all kinds of electronics involved in that. Braking systems used to be fairly simple. Now some of the newer vehicles, you have to have a computer to actually operate the braking system to make sure that it's okay after you've worked on it. Computer controlled of the engine is becoming very important. There's a lot to that. Each one of these areas, the technology is just tripled and quadrupled in the last few years. It's hard to keep up. You really need to stay in the books and know what's going on with them.
American Import Auto Repair, Johnson City, open 6 days a week. Call today at 913-3111.
From the driveways where your kids play basketball and ride their bicycles, to the parking lots at your local church or grocery store, Bracken Paving is an important part of many neighborhoods in our area. No matter how large or how small the job, Bracken strives for excellence in every service they provide. It's a foundation for a strong community. Discover the difference at Bracken Paving and Asphalt Maintenance. Give us a call or visit us online at brackenpaving.com.
Your life is always changing. You never know what shape it will take, or how your financial needs might change. But if we talk about your investments and how they can provide for you and your family, the future becomes clear. At Wells Fargo Advisors, we believe conversation leads to financial clarity. Let's start a conversation today.
Back with the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview Show. We're live again as the sun begins to set in a beautiful, beautiful Thursday here in the hills of East Tennessee. And again, another big day tomorrow as far as temperature, 80 degrees, much so the same on Saturday. So for your first weekend in October for high school football tomorrow night's probably going to be, like it is right now, probably going to be in the upper 70s, maybe low 70s, upper 60s. Very, very nice. Then on Saturday, for all intents and purposes, the day game is going to be in the 70s and 80s, and nighttime game is going to be in the 60s. And 70s. Going to be very, very nice for all this rain comes in. They're telling us we're going to get, which we obviously need. I was looking before we got on the air. We're like 2 inches below where we should be right now for the month up to this point for the month of September and into early October. Wise, Virginia's like 2 inches down below, so normal. So we need rain. Looks like we're going to get some off Tropical Storm Nate. Again, telling us, we told you at the top of the show, Florida State, Miami up in the air early today on the Tom Taylor Sports Show. They are going to play that game at 3:30 on Saturday at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee. They feel like it's going to be ahead of the storm, and folks can watch the game and head on out, because they are talking about anywhere from New Orleans over to the Florida Panhandle is going to be where the at this point Tropical Storm Nate is supposed to land, although they're expecting it to get into a hurricane status. So there's the very latest on that. We are with a beautiful, beautiful evening for high school football tomorrow night. Chris joins us, and we're going to talk college football, the Hokies, in just a second. Chris, one of the great employees here at Champion Chevrolet. Your official title is, you are?
Finance manager.
He makes it go. I've asked you this before. Is there anybody that comes through that door that you don't feel like you just have to look at him and go, ma'am, sir, we just can't get you bought? That's very, very rare, if all, right?
We'll make something happen.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
And you really do, don't you?
Yeah, we try our best. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
So if you don't think you have the credit, you think you have the wherewithal to come in and get a vehicle, I can tell you without naming names, Tim Copenaver did it just this week, and there you go. Made it happen with the young lady and came in and had a situation, wasn't the best, and he made it work. They make it work, and this starts right here. This guy, I love this guy. I've become a good friend with Chris McCall. And before we get started, October's cranking up, and it's heating up, and it's been busy here this afternoon on the lot. So we got some great deals. Tell us about some goodies right now.
We have got some deals now, Tom. We've got 17 Silverado Crew Cab All-Star Editions with $11,000 off MSRP. An 18 Equinox, $6,000 off MSRP. An 18 Trax, $4,500 off MSRP. Right now you can get 23% off 17 Cruises or Malibus and 25% off 17 Sonic and Spark LS. Yeah.
It just said, one of the guys said, "There's the dummy." Is he talking about me or you?
I don't think he's talking about you, Tom.
Ain't nothing for a man to take a butt whooping on a Thursday.
Do we have any security here at the Cletus Green Studios?
Pig is the security. That's the problem.
That is a real problem.
If
that guy's our security, we're in trouble.
And he's making fun of you. So we got some great deals.
We've got good deals.
We've got good deals. That Silverado Crew Cab, when you walk into the store here at Champion Chevrolet, they're going to knock $11,000 right off MSRP. You can't beat that.
That's unreal, isn't it? No. It's a lot of money. Lots of money.
$11,000.
How do they do that?
How do they do that?
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's my Tim Copenhagen impersonation. I did a pretty good job, didn't I?
2017 Silverado Crew Cab All-Stars at $11,000 off MSRP. And you got the Malibus on sale, too, the 2017 Malibus.
Yes, sir.
What's going on with those? What's the percentage?
23% off right now.
Off the
MSRP.
Yeah.
Go to the MSRP, take off 23%. There's your price.
Wow. Folks, it's just that easy, and as Tim says, and he's right. How did they do that? And Cletus told me today when he was on the sports show this afternoon that your assumed area would be from Roanoke to Knoxville.
Yes, sir.
That's called local.
That is local, and we consider that those are home folk.
Yeah.
You walk in from Roanoke, you're home folk. Knoxville, you're home folk.
What's Roanoke from here? 3 hours?
Easily.
Easy?
Yes, sir.
Knoxville's probably an hour and a half, 2 hours.
2 hours.
So just draw a circle from Tri-Cities and go out 2.5, 3 hours just go to Roanoke, down to Knoxville, and that's your local buying area. That's the kind of folks these folks serve.
And that'll encompass Pikeville and Asheville, too.
There you go.
Sir, yes, sir. That's a big circle.
You got it. Big.
Yes, sir.
So let's take a look at the Atlantic Coast Conference again. Virginia Tech, the Hokies stubbed their toe last week against a very good Clemson team. Let's take a look at the Coastal Division right now. Hokies again at 0-1. They'll take on from the Atlantic Division Boston College, who's 0-2. They're 2-3 on the season. They've only mustered 86 points on the season. Boston College, not a lot of offense through 5 football games, obviously. 88 points divided by 5 ain't much. I don't want to embarrass anybody by taking my boots off, doing my ciphering, but 88 divided by 5, what is that? You're a numbers guy.
I don't have any computer here. 6, 7, 8. What are you talking to?
Don't do that. Pick the dummy segment. And boy, can't cipher
That's
over there.
pitiful.
It is pitiful.
That is pitiful.
But 88 points divided by 5 games is not much for Boston College. Again, the Hokies on their side of the ledger, the Hokies come in. They've outscored their opponents. They're 4-1 of the season, 0-1 of the conference. 177-72 is their point production. So what happened Saturday night against Clemson? What went wrong?
It was a long night. Didn't seem like much went right from the very get-go, did it? Clemson literally was just in Josh Jackson's face from the start. And they did a little bit better job with the offensive line the second half. I mean, they just couldn't make anything happen. Real lack of production. That's a good way of saying it all the way around. Complete 100% effort there. The guys did try to play tough. You could just see the difference in the talent, couldn't you? I mean, that defensive line, I bragged about Clemson's defensive line last week. They didn't disappoint Saturday night, buddy. They're absolutely unreal.
Is this a barometer if you're Justin Fuente? Is this where your football team needs to be? You can use that as a measuring stick because that's twice they got beat in the ACC championship game a little closer a year ago, 42-35. Personnel was different, obviously, and particularly on the Hokie side. So is that an indication that's where your ball club is right now, losing to Clemson 2 times in a row?
I think that's what you say to your club and your coaching staff, too. After a loss like that, you say, no, we just saw where we want to be. We need to get there. And Virginia Tech's got some really good Division I college talent, and Clemson has some really good NFL talent. So there's a little bit of difference there. But it was a tough game to be a Hokie fan and sit through. But you see some positives there. Tech had 3 sacks in the ball game. I mean, there's a positive for you. Josh Jackson, we found out that he could get beat up a little bit and still be competitive and still get up and still go. He looks like he's a fighter. So sometimes these things are good too, especially for a young football team. And I think that they're going to use all the optimism they can gather out of it and go forward and take on a Boston College team this week that hasn't had quite the success Clemson's had in the last couple of years.
I can do the ciphering from Boston College inside the conference. They're 0-2. They've scored a total of 17 points divided by 2. That would be not quite 9 points a game, obviously. So obviously their offense sputters with at least inside the ACC. They're in the bottom of the Atlantic Division. The Hokies right smack dab in the middle of the Coastal Division, but a lot of football to be played yet for Virginia Tech. But this is a chance to travel on the road and win at Boston College on Saturday. What are the keys to go up there and get a W, especially coming off a very demoralizing, psychological, tough loss to Clemson this early in the season?
Well, you definitely don't want to take Boston College lightly, and anybody that's been at Tech for a couple of years playing or been a Tech fan for a couple of years or a lot of years knows you better not take Boston College very lightly. They're stepping back into the ACC, I mean, in their division too. I mean, it's going to be it won't be an easy game by any means, but Boston College is going to be a little stung from last year if they think back. I mean, that was a pretty big beat, and it was 49-0, I believe, last year when they played down at Lane Stadium. So Howard Landry won't be happy, and Howard Landry is a stud, as we call. He's going to get to play with all those Clemson guys next year in the NFL, right? So he's tough. The Boston College did suffer. Their starting linebacker is a Statuan kid. He's out. He got hurt last week against Central Michigan. So it's going to be a few things that the Hokies can probably capitalize on. They're going to be able to run the ball. I mean, I don't doubt that. They're going to move Howard Landry around. Boston College will quite a bit, but I believe we've got a couple of good offensive tackles that'll be able to stick into him pretty well. 7:15
game on Saturday. 16th ranked Hokies taking on Boston College 2-3. Again, the Hokies are 4-1. It's a 7:15 kickoff on ESPN2, I should say, on Saturday in the division and in the conference. ACC, Clemson 3-0, NC State 2-0. They will take on Louisville coming up. That one's tonight, as a matter of fact, at 8 o'clock on ESPN. That's going to be a good one out of the ACC. Both 4-1. Louisville at North Carolina State and Raleigh. On the Coastal Division, Georgia Tech undefeated. They're on top of 2-0. Miami at 1-0. Of course, the Hurricanes will take on the Seminoles of Florida State on Saturday. And that's going to be a big statement game in the ACC conference races. So Hokies have plenty of football left. They just got to get back and play Hokie football because they ran into a buzzsaw Saturday. And Clemson certainly showed, at least to me, what I watched of the game, why they're the number 2 ranked team in the country.
There's no doubt about that. They are tough. Yes, sir.
Yes, they are tough. So, again, who's your high school football team play this week? Who we got?
Lehigh's going to play. They were off last week, and they play Union. They're playing Union tomorrow night, so it's going to be a long evening.
There you go, Union at Lee.
We're Union's a little bit worried.
Big tight end, right?
Union's got the big tight end. Well, he's been playing. They've been playing kind of a wildcat with him. Their quarterback had gotten hurt earlier, like the first week of the season. So they bring him in, let him direct snap the ball to him. Then he plays halfback some. Then he goes back out to tight end. So he's kind of doing it all for him right now, and he's doing a heck of a job.
Does whatever he wants.
Yes, sir.
And he's narrowed it down to 4 or 5 schools. Let me think. Tennessee's one.
Tennessee's one. Clemson's one of them.
Hokies. Gosh, there's 2 more. Who's the other 2? You remember, Dave? The kid from Union. Tennessee, Virginia Tech, Duke. Wasn't Clemson one of them too? Yeah.
Clemson is on there. The Hokies have really been recruiting him hard, and he actually goes to the same gym that my wife lives at, so she's got to know him a little bit. But she said he talks about a lot of these different teams. But Tech had sent him a bunch of stuff online and stuff like that for with his picture with a Hokie jersey on and stuff. And so they're going to pull out all the stops. He's a local kid, and he's definitely one that they'd love to have in Blacksburg, and I'd love to see him in Blacksburg.
There you go. A lot of folks like to see him in Blacksburg.
Yes, sir.
We are glad you're here. Again, the Silverado Crew Cab All-Stars, $11,000 off MSRP. Also, the 2017 Sonics and Spark LSs. Those are 25% off the MSRP sticker, and also you have the 2018 tracks are in, and you're
Yes,
knocking
sir.
the money right off the tracks right out of the chute.
Come on.
$4,500 off the 2018s.
Yes, sir. Brand new car.
Brand spanking new.
Sparkling when you get here. So
Purdy.
you come on, Purdy. That's right. You come, we'll clean them up. We'll clean up those new cars for you. Fill them full of gas. Send you home with a smile. You'll come back the next time too.
And those folks get home, they'll get out of the car and look and go, honey, how'd they do that? Tim said, how
do they do that? My Tim Copenhagen impersonation.
Do
I'm
it
working
one
on
more
that. How do they do that?
I bet he gets so tired of hearing that.
Let me
he
say
said
one
he goes out
thing.
to restaurants and people do it. It's like traveling to Elvis.
They do it in my office. They said, "Where's the?" If he's not down here at the desk, they come up to my office. They say, "Where's the? How do you do that, guy?" I said, "Stick right there."
Wait a minute. Here he comes. Here we go. How do they do that? Wait a minute. Let's do it one more time. There you go.
Get it.
Screen. How do they do that?
He's amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's a learning lesson every day I come to work here.
It's a joy, isn't it?
I do. I want to say hi to a friend of mine. I got a text from him earlier, and he'd actually seen this. Somebody on Facebook, and Dewey Lusk, the head coach at Bluefield College, won his second game last week. They're 2-3. That's the best record Bluefield College has had since they resurrected football about 3 or 4 years ago.
The
4 or 5 years.
Rams.
Rambling Rams. So they won their second game. He has 2 of the wins. One more, and I told him they were going to build a statue of him right there on campus. I want to say hi to Dewey, the whole Bluefield Rams team. Good luck to you this weekend, guys. Go get him.
So he's seen the show.
He's seen the show. He saw it on my webpage.
Yeah.
They had posted it, and he saw it on Facebook. I guess not my webpage. I don't.
Facebook page.
My Facebook. Thank you.
Yeah,
there you go.
page.
See,
show's growing. We're getting it all the time.
Huge.
Yeah. When Dewey
Huge.
Lusk and Bluefield, Virginia, boys,
he's the man. He has arrived. So
we shut her down and go to the house.
So good luck to him.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
Bluefield College Rambling Rams used to call ball games up there for Beaver and Concord, and the Bluefield College Rambling Rams back in the day had a concrete floor gym. I remember that. Right.
Is that right?
Right across the street from the Bonanza. I remember that.
Concrete gym. I love
gym floor.
Love Tassel County.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Love, yes sir.
Of course, I'm a West Virginia boy. That's good. That's home up there. So
yes,
of course,
sir.
That's in Bluefield, Virginia, right across the line, but still good. So Dewey Lusk watching in Bluefield, Virginia. Go Rams.
That's right. Go get them.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
He's awesome. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. And Dave has already talked to Doug. He's going to talk to Carmichael coming up next year as we're live at Champion Chevrolet. The 5-Star Football Preview Show rolls on. We'll take a break, and we'll get Carmichael in here for the top 5 college football games of the week right after you hear this from Champion Chevrolet on the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview.
Blue Lizard Australian Sunscreen originated in Australia, where sunscreen standards are the strictest in the world. Although our products are now manufactured here in the U.S., we continue to adhere to the most stringent Australian standards to offer the best in broad-spectrum sun protection. Blue Lizard, the brand most recommended by pediatricians and dermatologists. Our smart bottle turns blue in the presence of UV rays, reminding you to cover up. You bring the sun, Blue Lizard brings the magic.
It's Chevy Truck Month, Take 2 at Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City. The savings and selection of over 600 new Chevys to choose from are at an all-time high. 1500 All-Star Crew, $11,000 off. 1715 All-Star Double Cab, $10,000 off. 18 Equinox LT, $5,000 off. 17 Traction Traverse, $5,000 off. Shop us online 24/7 and remember our Saturday parts and service hours. Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City, where we leave you asking, how do they do that?
At Bristol Orthotics and Prosthetics, they treat thousands of patients each year dealing with diabetes and its effects. Diabetes overtaking our nation and leaving a path of destruction behind. Through wound care, office visits, and preventive care, they see most of the patients after a problem arises. Using diabetic footwear such as shoes and inserts, a great way to prevent or prolong skin breakdown and amputation. At Bristol Orthotics and Prosthetics, they use only custom molds from patient mold inserts, which further ensure a great recovery, or better yet, prevents a wound from happening. They use custom molded shoes, bracing, custom inserts, and extra depth diabetic shoes to prevent wounds or other skin issues from beginning. Call today, 1-800-524-4447. 39 years, 6 locations, 1 family. Bristol Orthotics and Prosthetics, 1-800-524-4447.
Any day is a good day to get a tray from Chick-fil-A. Over 10 to choose from. Perfect for having the gang over to watch the big game. Birthday parties, church get-togethers, backyard gatherings, everything from fruit trays to garden salad trays to nuggets and chicken strip trays. And for the sweet tooth, try the cinnamon cluster or chocolate chunk cookie tray. So you see, any day is a good day to get a tray from Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A at the Crossings in North Johnson City.
At FCA, we're touching millions one heart at a time. Since 1954, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes has been putting the heart and soul in sports by challenging athletes and coaches to impact the world for Jesus Christ. As the largest sports ministry in the world, FCA now reaches over 2 million people annually on the professional, college, high school, junior high, and youth levels. Through this shared passion for athletics and faith, lives are changed, one heart at a time. Learn more at fca.org.
And we are back here on the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview. I got my man Carmichael on the phone here, going to talk about the 5 big games this week in college football. Carmichael, how you doing?
I'm doing great tonight. You doing great, Dave?
Doing wonderful, man. Can't complain at all. A lot of good football this weekend to talk about. It kicks off here pretty soon. You know, Louisville and NC State playing. Obviously Wolfpack off to a pretty good start. Louisville has had their trouble with Clemson, but a very dangerous football team. What do you see the keys in this ball game for both teams?
Can Louisville make, and this is tonight, can Louisville not, NC State's an explosive offense. They have hit the big play. They've been able to do that this year. The only loss coming in South Carolina in the opening game. Can they make Louisville's defense will have to make them try to drive the field, use as many plays as possible, try to stop them. Then Louisville, I think, is going to have to just basically end up outscoring NC State. NC State has a really good defensive line, very active, one of the better defensive lines in the country. They can get pressure on the quarterback. And they're also looking for revenge. Last year, Louisville walked all over NC State 54-13 in Louisville. Tonight's a big game in Raleigh, maybe the biggest game of the year so far for NC State. They defeated Florida State, so they got a little bit of confidence. They won last week. Louisville won last week 55-10 over Murray State. Other than the Clemson game, they've not really played anybody this year. They're also 0-6 against any time they went on the road against ranked opponents. So this is a big game for Louisville to try to stay up with Clemson in the Eastern or the Coastal Conference this year in the ACC.
Yeah, I really thought in the Louisville-Clemson game, you look at the defensive front for Clemson, which obviously is an elite defense, and maybe arguably you look at them with Alabama and possibly with Michigan being a great defensive front that can pressure quarterbacks. But looking at NC State and them being such a good team up front, do you think they have enough on that defense to pressure Lamar Jackson enough to kind of get him moving and kind of make him make some of the same mistakes he made against Clemson?
I think they can. It's just that can their defensive front put enough pressure on to slow him down to where their secondary and their linebackers can make the play. They're going to give up some points to Jackson. You just don't want to get in a game where you're giving up 45-50. And he can put that up against you if you don't get to him quickly. The pressure is all on their defensive line to where they get to him. If they can't get to him tonight, it's going to be a long night for NC State.
Yeah, you're talking about that being possibly a high-scoring game. Another potential high-scoring game, when you look at West Virginia and TCU mixing it up, it's kind of a hallmark of some of those Big 12 games where the last team with the ball, has a chance to win it. They're combining for anywhere between 80 and 100 points. Seems like this is a game here where it looks like, at least on paper, that there's going to be plenty of points going up.
I mean, it's almost like a basketball game. When you look at teams like this, they score almost as much as a college basketball game. West Virginia's 3-1. They lost that close one in the opener against Virginia Tech, but the last 3 games they're averaging 57 points. Now they've played kind of the little sisters of the poor, but they're still putting up that many points. Will Greer's had an outstanding start to the campaign. He's thrown for 13 touchdown passes. West Virginia, though, going on the road playing a ranked team, they've not beaten a ranked top 10 team since 1982. TCU has started out well. They've beat Arkansas, they beat Oklahoma State, and they're more of a balanced offense. Seems like West Virginia throws the ball a little bit more. TCU tries to run it a little bit more than West Virginia does. Kenny Hill, the quarterback for TCU, has done an outstanding job throwing and running, and also TCU at home again as a top 10 ranked team, 17-0 while playing against other ranked teams. So I would think in this game, I look for TCU to win the game, but it's going to be a shootout, one of those 49-42 Big 12 classic matchups.
Yeah, I was really impressed, obviously, with what TCU was able to do last week, against a really good Oklahoma State team. But, with West Virginia, you talk about they didn't really play anybody, but they're putting up a lot of points. And, historically, you look at West Virginia's offense, they seem like a team when no matter who they're playing, once they start finding that rhythm and they really start feeling it, especially in the passing game like they have, it's kind of hard to break that momentum once they get rolling.
Greer has done an outstanding job throwing the ball, running that high-powered offense that they like to run at West Virginia. You don't think Florida would really like to have him at quarterback this year with all the troubles they've had? So, I mean, this is a game that very well could go down to the last possession of the game. You're not going to find a 24-17 game between these two teams. It's going to be quite a shootout.
Moving on to Michigan State, Michigan, big Saturday night game coming up this week, be in the Big House in Ann Arbor. Obviously, Michigan finally got the better of Michigan State last year. You're looking at a couple teams coming into this ball game. I think the question mark for both teams is their offensive line. And on the opposite side of the ball, you have two defensive lines, at least in the early part of this season, who've been able to really get pressure on the quarterback. It's going to kind of be one of those games. It seems like both quarterbacks may end up running for their life.
Now we talked about the last game being like a 49-42 game. Now we're going the complete 180 with this one. This one is liable to be a 10-7, 14-10 type game. Michigan's 4-0, one of the best defenses in the country. They're 8th in the country in points allowed. They beat Purdue last week. John O'Korn's first start at Michigan came in the last game, did an incredible job, 18-26 passing, 270 yards, stepping in for the injury at the other quarterback last week. Michigan State started out the season 3-1. Their only loss to Notre Dame. They defeated Iowa last week. It's a big rivalry game. Anytime you have these two teams matching up, it's kind of like the old saying goes, throw the records out the books. Michigan State, a very good defensive team. Mark D'Antonio's 7-3 against Michigan. He's the winningest Michigan State coach against Michigan. That even includes a guy named Saban that's won several national championships at Alabama. So I look, though, for Michigan's defense to be able to handle Michigan State and win in a low-scoring contest.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think it's not going to be the most beautiful artistic game, but rivalry games rarely are, And as we move in to talk about another rivalry game here, we've seen Florida State early this season really struggle after losing a starting quarterback in the first game of the year. They're welcoming Miami to town, and I think a lot of people, and I'm one of them, until I see Florida State step up and start playing better, I look at this as Miami coming in as a huge favorite. But, there really is something funny about these rivalry games, especially when the favorite is going on the road to play against the underdog. Sometimes these games could be a lot closer than people think they're going to be.
It could be. Even though I'm a Florida State fan, this has been awful. This has been one of the worst starts of a season that I can remember in Florida State in quite some time. I mean, their offensive line cannot block. They have to be one of the worst, if maybe not the worst, offensive line in all Power 5 conference college football. Their offense is 119th in the country. That's Kansas-like. Vanderbilt-like. I mean, they cannot move the ball. James Blackman stepped in at quarterback and had a dreadful game at Wake Forest until 52 seconds ago, and he throws a game-winning touchdown pass. Can they block well enough to keep enough to where they can run the ball? If Florida State can run the ball just a little bit, make a couple of plays, they've got a chance in this game. Miami has played well defensively this year. They're 3-0 to start the season. They beat Duke last week 31-6. Malik Rozier has had a good start to the season, throwing 8 touchdown passes so far. Played much better defense against Duke. Really did a good job at shutting the Duke passing game down. And I look for more of the same this week in Tallahassee if they get to play the game. And here comes another tropical storm heading possibly toward Tallahassee this weekend.
Yeah, it looks, at least for now, like they're going to play it. It's so I know they've had so many disruptions. I'm sure they're hoping this one steers clear. Just talking one more minute about Florida State. I mean, as a Florida State fan, going into this season, that seemed like a pretty solid, complete football team. Obviously, you lose your quarterback, you're going to have some problems. But the offensive line, in terms of, as you mentioned, how bad they've played, I think that's come as a surprise to pretty much anybody that follows football.
But they were bad last year. They got Ricky Francois killed last year. I mean, every time he went back to throw, he was getting hit last year. What made that offensive line look much better than it was last year was Dalvin Cook. He was now you realize, hey, maybe we should have considered him a little bit more for the Heisman Trophy, because if he was able to do what he did behind that offensive line, and a lot of them are some of the same players that are playing this year. I mean, really, they have not been able to move. They're able to run the ball east-west. If they can get to the outside and get to the corners, their running backs are effective. But if they try to go north-south up the middle, that's where they have trouble moving the ball and keeping the quarterback protected.
Last one here, we have Stanford heading out there to face Utah in the Pac-12, and I've always been a fan of this Utah team. Just a real physical, gritty football team. That's kind of been their identity. Of course, Stanford over the years, at least over the last decade, has really established themselves as well as a team that kind of controls the line of scrimmage, or at least tries to do that, and tries to be able to out-physical the opponent. So a couple similar teams in that respect facing off this week.
But you've got Stanford, and I call it Bryce Love. I mean, Mr. Excitement in college football. He's run already for over 1,000 yards in the first 5 games. He's only the 5th player in college football history to do that. I mean, in the last 2 weeks against UCLA, he had 263 yards rushing. Last week against Arizona State, 301 yards rushing. I mean, he's one of, if he's not the favorite for the Heisman Trophy right now, just able to run the ball. Stanford has struggled, defensively a little bit this year, not played as well as in years past, but they're still 3-2, starting to right the ship. They won against Arizona State last week. Utah has played tough. They've not been pretty in any of the games. I watched a lot of the BYU game, but their defense just kept making plays. When their defense had to step up and play, they did well. Tyler Huntley, who's been their starting quarterback, is injured, may not start this weekend, but Troy Williams, who was the starter last year, has stepped in and did a good job and got the win against Arizona in relief. So they switched offenses this year. They went from a passing type thing to more of a spread offense. Just have to see what happens. But I like Stanford to win on the road this week. They've been one of the top teams in the West the last few years. I look for Bryce Love to have another good game against Utah this weekend.
Yeah, I definitely expect Stanford to get a bounce back, and I think they're about due for that. So, well, Carmichael, appreciate it, man. Way to walk us through those 5 games. I learned a lot there, and looking forward to watching them. And, of course, we don't have to wait long because Louisville and NC State kicking off here almost as we speak. So appreciate your time. We'll talk to you again next week.
Yes, sir. We'll see you later.
All right, good deal. Well, coming up after the break, it's going to be me. I'm going to be the man. I'm going to sit here and talk about some Big East football here in the in Upper East Tennessee. Have 3 big games this week, so we'll be talking about that. First, we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back on the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview.
Blue Lizard Australian Sunscreen originated in Australia, where sunscreen standards are the strictest in the world. Although our products are now manufactured here in the U.S., we continue to adhere to the most stringent Australian standards to offer the best in broad-spectrum sun protection. Blue Lizard, the brand most recommended by pediatricians and dermatologists. Our smart bottle turns blue in the presence of UV rays, reminding you to cover up. You bring the sun, Blue Lizard brings the magic.
It's Chevy Truck Month, take two at Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City. The savings and selection of over 600 new Chevys to choose from are at an all-time high. 1500 All-Star Crew, $11,000 off. 1715 All-Star Double Cab, $10,000 off. 18 Equinox LT, $5,000 off. 17 Traction Traverse, $5,000 off. Shop us online 24/7 and remember our Saturday parts and service hours. Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City, where we leave you asking, how do they do that?
At Brist Orthotics and Prosthetics, they treat thousands of patients each year dealing with diabetes and its effects. Diabetes overtaking our nation and leaving a path of destruction behind. Through wound care, office visits, and preventive care, they see most of the patients after a problem arises. Using diabetic footwear such as shoes and inserts, a great way to prevent or prolong skin breakdown and amputation. At Brist Orthotics and Prosthetics, they use only custom molds from patient mold inserts, which further ensure a great recovery, or better yet, prevents a wound from happening. They use custom molded shoes, bracing, custom inserts, and extra depth diabetic shoes to prevent wounds or other skin issues from beginning. Call today, 1-800-524-4447. 39 years, 6 locations, 1 family. Brist Orthotics and Prosthetics, 1-800-524-4447.
Any day is a good day to get a tray from Chick-fil-A. Over 10 to choose from. Perfect for having the gang over to watch the big game, birthday parties, church get-togethers, backyard gatherings, everything from fruit trays to garden salad trays to nuggets and chicken strip trays. And for the sweet tooth, try the cinnamon cluster or chocolate chunk cookie tray. So you see, any day is a good day to get a tray from Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A at the Crossings in North Johnson City.
At FCA, we're touching millions one heart at a time. Since 1954, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes has been putting the heart and soul in sports by challenging athletes and coaches to impact the world for Jesus Christ. As the largest sports ministry in the world, FCA now reaches over 2 million people annually on the professional, college, high school, junior high, and youth levels. Through this shared passion for athletics and faith, lives are changed, one heart at a time. Learn more at fca.org.
Here's the Pick 'em Panel contest. Again, you have until midnight tonight to win $25. Who's going to be next? Could it be you? Again, this would be Jerry McNeil from Elizabethton. Then week 5, I'm actually behind. I apologize. So week 5 would be Brenda Byram from Elizabethton. She won $25 last week. So who's it going to be this week? Again, we've told you. There's no reason why you can't get on there and do it, because we've told you how to win. We've given you the magic numbers to do it. We've told you. We need first name, last name, town you're from, and the email address. And we told you West Virginia TCU. We took TCU.
We did.
Well, Miami. Why am I telling you this? Because Dave and I do this every week just to tell you how to win. And we were 8 for 10 last week. So if you follow our lead before midnight tonight, when you play and put your picks in, you can win $25. Miami and Florida State. We took
Miami in that one.
Take Miami. Next pick would be LSU, Florida. We said when you pick the Gators. Can't go wrong. We were 8 for 10 last week. I don't know what we are. I guess need to keep a running tab for the whole season. But I know last week we were 8 for 10. Bama, Texas A&M, we took the Crimson Tide. Michigan State, Michigan. He's a big Wolverine guy, so obviously we're telling you to take the Wolverines at the Big House on Saturday. High school football, the 5 picks. Hardin Valley at Science Hill. We took the Hilltoppers. Farragut at Dobbins Bennett. Again, defending champ, 19 in a row. We took Farragut to win at DB, although I think DB will give them all they want. Johnson County at Happy Valley, we told you to take the Longhorns. Tennessee High at the Stone Castle hosting Cobb County, take the Vikings at home. And Crockett on the road at Cherokee, take the Pioneers. So there you go. And again, one more time, let me hit it for you where we want you to go. It's right there. Boom, the Pick 'em Panel. TomTaylorSports.com/football. You have until midnight tonight to submit your entries. And why would you not? Even if you live out of town. So I got a call the other day, said, well, I live out of town. I tell you what, if you live where there's a mailbox and you win $25, we'll mail you the checks, not a problem. Cashier's check with your name on it. So no matter where you are, we have a lady up in West Virginia plays every week in Oak Hill, West Virginia, and so we would encourage you to do that. Dave's going to showcase coming up Region 1 6A football here in just a second. 3 big games tomorrow night. Let's run down some of the offensive leaders. This is compliments of the Johnson City Press, Doug Fritz and the folks. Your offensive leaders through 7 weeks of football. We already have 2 1,000-yard rushers. Jacob Bunch of Granger, I saw him play when he played Elizabeth, and he run 1,029. Jalen Adams of Science Hill, 1,024. So Jalen has thrown for 1,000 and has ran for 1,000. How about that?
That's amazing. God. You just stole my thunder, Tom. I was going to talk about that in my pick.
I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry. So, won't say anything else.
I didn't have much thunder to begin with.
No, I won't say anything else. Other rushing leaders, Jordan Coffey with Cloudland, 999. Got to figure tomorrow night he'll get 1 yard to crack the 1,000 mark. Ethan Ward, Sullivan South, 884. Hunter Davenport of Hampton has rushed for 841. And Amik Watterson, Science Hill, 813 yards rushing. Yards passing so far this season, Cade Larkins of Crockett, 1,445 yards of passing for the Crockett quarterback. Carter Everett, Elizabethton, 1,270. Lyndon Redwine, Dobbins Minute, 1,210. Cade Ballard, Greenville, 1,187 yards passing. Nathan Arnold from Johnson County, 1,107, I should say. And then Jalen Adams of Science Hill, 1,035. And then John Ramsey of Unaka, right there on the cusp with 972, and also throw in Peyton Robinson of Sullivan North with 819 yards passing. So these kids, you figure Ramsey with 972 and Robinson with 819, they're going to get their 1,000 yards passing. But Jalen Adams, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say any more about it because you're going to showcase the game in a minute. Yards receiving, number 1 receiver in the area, Blake Isaacs of Unaka, 592 yards. Seth Crawford, Greenville, 568. Ryan Wetzel, Elizabeth, and 477. John Colley, Crockett, 470. Passing touchdowns. Check this out. Carter Everett, Elizabeth, 19. Peyton Robinson, Sullivan North, 18. Cade Ballard, Greenville, 16. Ethan Ward, Sullivan South, 11 passing touchdowns. Cade Larkins of Crockett with 10 passing touchdowns. Then total TDs, we'll let you break down the region, and we'll come back to the defensive leaders. Total touchdowns so far, Cade Ballard, Greenville, 23. Ethan Ward, Sullivan South, 22. Carter Everett, Elizabeth, 21. Jalen Adams, Science Hill, 20 total touchdowns. Peyton Robinson of Sullivan North is with 18. And Braden Sams of Happy Valley with 16. That's your big leaders in total touchdowns. We'll give you the defensive leaders coming up in just a moment. All right, break it down for us. Game number 1. Let's break down the Region 1 6A standings. Farragut 3-0, Hardin Valley 2-0, Science Hill 2-1, Dobbins Minute 1-1, Bearden 1-2. They're off this week. At Morristown West and Jeff County at 0-2. Morristown West. Patriots in the cellar in the conference at 0-3. Game 1 tomorrow night here in Johnson City. Science Hill 2-1, Hardin Valley 2-0. Break down this game for us.
Well, this one right here, this is strength on strength, what we're looking at this week. Science Hill averaging 42.5 points a game offensively, just putting up huge numbers. And I don't know if you've heard this or not. Jalen Adams thrown for 1,000 yards, run for 1,000, and he scored 20 touchdowns. He's the guy that makes the Science Hill offense go. And you're going up against a defense that's allowing 11.6 points per game. That is pretty stingy when you look at them. They started out 0-2, but they've won 4 games in a row and really been kind of getting on a roll from there. And the defense is physical. So, it's going to be up to Science Hill this week, obviously with Jalen Adams leading the charge. You see how even he is in throwing and in running. And he's going to have to make some plays kind of with his feet and with his arms to kind of keep that Science Hill offense a little bit unpredictable, keep it well balanced in order to move it against Hardin Valley. They're going to have to avoid turnovers, but it's one of those situations where you look at Hardin Valley, they're only averaging 25 points per game, which hasn't been much of a problem because of how good their defense is, but I do think that they're going to have to score more points than they have been to win at Science Hill, and that's why I think they're going to have a hard time winning that game, because I think regardless of how good Hardin Valley's defense is, I think Science Hill's offense will be good enough to be able to put some points on the board, and I think it'll be enough points to win.
Science Hill will have a night to honor former Hilltopper football players and coaches tomorrow night, beginning at 6 o'clock. There'll be a tailgating tent set up behind the Science Hill Fieldhouse at halftime of the game against Hardin Valley tomorrow night. A ceremony will be held on the football field, so a special night to bring back some of the greats of Science Hill football from years gone by. That's tomorrow night at Kermit Tipton Stadium here in Johnson City. Game 2. Farragut comes into Kingsport again with a 19-game winning streak. The defending state champion, the Admirals, at Dobbins Minute tomorrow night. Break this game down.
Yeah, it's Science Hill scored some points last week against Farragut, and still Farragut's only allowing 12 points a game on average. That shows how good they've been. They've pitched a couple shutouts this year. It's one of these deals where both teams, they're both going in to run the football. I think that's what they both want to do. They both want to establish the line of scrimmage. You look at DB, they've been pretty successful at that over the years. Farragut putting up 300 rush yards, over 300 yards on the ground against Science Hill. That's a lot of plays. Whoever controls the time of possession in this football game and whoever wins the turnover battle has a great chance to win the ball game. And I just think that when you look at it, Farragut's got a better chance to do that than Dobbins Bennett has to do that. So I think they're going to be able to remain undefeated and really put themselves in the driver's seat in order to win this conference crown.
We told you Lyndon Redwine of Dobbins Bennett with 1,210 yards passing with this young man, so he's having a heck of a season. So the Indians host Farragut tomorrow night. It'll be a chance, as we've told you last week, they take the top 4 in each region. And so right now it would be Farragut, Hardin Valley, if we stop today, would be at home, and Science Hill and Dobbins Bennett would travel. Of course, there's a lot of football left, about 2-3 games left of the conference race. So Science Hill playing for a home field advantage for the upcoming playoffs. They will finish up with Morristown West and Jeff County. So everybody has, including tomorrow night, 3 games left in the conference. So very big ball game for placement of the upcoming football playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a huge night. And, everybody, you look at it, has something to play for. Science Hill, if they can pin a loss on Hardin Valley, and be able to, that'll put them in a better position to get one of those home field playoff games, which is huge. If you're playing at home, it's such a huge advantage because the travel gets longer in the playoffs and the teams get better. It becomes even more of a factor. You want to be at home, and Science Hill's fared pretty well in home playoff games over the last few years, and definitely want to have another one of those this time around.
Kevin Harmon joins us coming up in a few minutes talking about Tennessee football. What's going on in Knoxville? What's gone wrong? How do they fix it with an open week? And we'll just let him kind of pontificate about what's going on in K-Town with a week off, with South Carolina coming to town next Saturday. Final Region 1 6A game, Morristown West at Jeff County. We gave you the standings. Motown West 0-2, 2-4 on the season. Jefferson County 0-3, and 4-3 in 2017. Who wins this game tomorrow night, in your humble opinion, in Dumpling Valley at Jeff County?
I'll tell you, I am shocked, absolutely shocked that Morristown West went up and lost to Union last week, and that's not taking anything away from James Mitchell, not taking anything away from the coaches up there, and it's just a great football town up there in Big Stone Gap. But I thought Morristown West would have the firepower to get that done, and they didn't. I think that's telling. You look at this season, they've had trouble defensively. They're allowing 28 points a game. That's tough. You really got to come out and be able to score in order to win, and as a result, it's hard to do. They haven't done it. As a result, they're 2-4 overall and 0-2 in the league. And you look at the flip side of that, you have an offense in Morristown West that's had a hard time scoring points. Jeff County, great defense for them, 16 points per game. They've it's one of those things where it's two bad football teams, so it's kind of hard to break down at a certain level. Jeff County has their negatives as well. Obviously, when you look at them being 0-3 in the league, they've been shut out twice. And that's tough. And they've played 3 Big East games. They're 0-3 in those games, and they've scored a total of 6 points in those 3 games. To me, that doesn't bode well for a matchup against Morristown West. I think, saying that, Morristown West will have enough firepower to get it done and be able to get the win. But man, oh man, 2 football teams with a lot of problems early in the season.
Let's run down the defensive leaders in the area, thanks to the Johnson City Press. Again, giving props to our buddy Doug Fritz, who puts this together. The leading tackler in the area from Unicoi County, Owen Nicholson, with 108 tackles. By the way, hello to Tammy Bowman. Hello to Kim Witherspoon, also Carter Davidson, and also want to say hello to Andy Dietrich. Andy's watching tonight, wherever he's at, so hello to Andy. He'll be back with us next week. Bryson Street of Unaka, second leading tackler in the area with 93. Michael Smith, Unicoi County with 80. Hayden Osborne, Johnson County with 78. Dakota Cochran, Happy Valley with 76. Arthur James of Science Hill with 71 tackles. Tackles for loss, top 5 in the area. J.R. Giles of Crockett, Matthew Hatcher of Unicoi County, Michael Smith of Unicoi County, all with 9 tackles for loss. Cujo, Cameron Coleman, Elizabethton with 8. Shane Armstrong, Unicoi County with 8. Austin Odell with Unicoi County with 8. Jacques Gillespie, Taylor Greenville, Jet Harris, Dobbins Bennett, John Colley, Crockett, all with 7 tackles for loss. In the sack department, your top 5, Riley Grills, Sullivan South in the area with 10 sacks on the season. Jordan King from Johnson County with 6. Charlie Cole from Daniel Boone, J.R. Giles from Crockett, and Hayden Osborne from Johnson County with 5 sacks each. Also defensively, the number 1 interception guy in the area, Shane Austin from Science Hill with 4. Matt Diminick, Dobbins Bennett, Seth Crawford, Greenville, Ethan Whitley, Sullivan East, Kai Norman, Happy Valley, Benjamin Gregg, Science Hill, and Bradley Edwards, Unicoi County, and Luke Phillips, Happy Valley, all with 3 each. But Shane Austin with the number 1 interception guy so far on the season with 4 for Science Hill. And then fumble recoveries, oh yes. How does he do that? Zach Copenhaver, Science Hill with 3. Dalton McLean of Greenville with 3. Mason Hayworth, Sullivan East. Bryson Street, Unaka, and Hayden Osborne, Johnson County, and Roby Lemon in Unicoi County. Luke Phillips of Happy Valley, all these guys with 2. Dakota Cochran, Happy Valley. Nick Drumright, Sullivan South. Corey Williams, Sullivan South. And Johnny Lord of Crockett, all with 2. But the big dog in fumble recoveries, we know his daddy, Zach Copenhaver of Science Hill, leads the area with 3 fumble recoveries. And, of course, his mama and his daddy are very proud, and we're proud of him as well. So those are some of the individual leaders. Should be a great night tomorrow night for high school football. Let's run them down. Weather-wise, should be perfect tomorrow night.
It's going to be wonderful. A little bit warm out there, but, man, I'm not going to complain a bit about that here in October.
No. I remember some of those guys. I'll never forget the night we went down and played Greenville 4, 5, 6 years ago. The game time temperature was 21 degrees. I'll never forget that. It was 38-35 in triple overtime. We got beat by Greenville. That was Stacy Carter's last year at Sullivan South. And I'm talking about, and we flipped them. We all brought little individual heaters. They told us to, or they were renovating the press box at that time from Burley Stadium. So all the media folks all had their little individual heaters. Flipped them on, the breaker flipped. Didn't have any lights or heat up in the press box for half the game. And you talking about freezing your
I remember
dogs.
it was about 4 years ago. There was a game in Death Valley down there at South that you and I were both in the press box for that one.
Oh, that's
I was
right.
at the Times News at the time, and it was in October, and it was cold. I mean, we're talking almost single digits. I've never felt, so yeah.
That was
So the
Greenville
fact that
game.
we're talking, yeah, that may have been. And we're talking 70 degrees on a Friday night.
We'll take it.
None of us are going to complain.
No, not in October. You got it. Here are the big games tomorrow night. We told you the 6A one more time. Hardin Valley, Science Hill, Farragut at Dobbins Bennett, Morristown West at Jeff County, Crockett at Cherokee. Doug Fritz previewed that game. Volunteer at Daniel Boone, Cock County at Tennessee High, Sullivan South at Greenville, Elizabethton at Union County, Sullivan Central at Cougars at Sullivan East. Granger will be at Chucky Doak with their 1,000-yard rusher, that young man, Jacob Bunch, 1,029 yards rushing. He'll take his show into the land of the Black Knights tomorrow night at Chucky Doak. Johnson County and Happy Valley, that's the game of the week, I would think, along with the Hardin Valley Science Hill game. West Green will be at Knox Catholic, Unaka at Unicoi County, North Green at South Green. Cloudland will be on the road at Battle of the Hampton Bulldogs, a little Carter County backyard tussle. Cosby at Concord Christian, Hancock County at Thomas Walker. Now, in Southwest Virginia, ball games coming up tomorrow night. You got Eastside at Rye Cove, Hancock County at Thomas Walker, Honaker at J.I. Burton. John Battle, the Trojans, will be at Wise Central. Gate City, a winless football team. When was the last time Gate City was winless this deep in the season? They're hosting Marion tomorrow night. Twin Springs at Castlewood, Union at Lee, the Abington Falcons hosting Virginia High. Ridgeview has an open date. And in Tennessee, your open dates include Morristown East, Sullivan North, Claiborne, and the Knox Bearden Bulldogs. And that's a look at high school football. We'll take a break. We'll come right back. Dave and I, before we get out of here at the top of the hour, we'll recap the top 25 college football games. But coming up next, we'll take a break. We'll hear from a man that we hope has the answers. So far, nobody does down in K-Town, but we'll see if our UT stringer, Kevin Harmon, can give us the answers to what's going on. How do you fix the problems in Knoxville over the Tennessee football team? Right after this time out on the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview Show, inside the studio, inside the showroom here at Champion Chevrolet on the Bristol Motor Mile in Johnson City.
At FCA, we're touching millions one heart at a time. Since 1954, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes has been putting the heart and soul in sports by challenging athletes and coaches to impact the world for Jesus Christ. As the largest sports ministry in the world, FCA now reaches over 2 million people annually on the professional, college, high school, junior high, and youth levels. Through this shared passion for athletics and faith, lives are changed, one heart at a time. Learn more at FCA.org.
It's Chevy Truck Month, Take 2 at Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City. The savings and selection of over 600 new Chevys to choose from are at an all-time high. 1500 All-Star Crew, $11,000 off. 1715 All-Star Double Cab, $10,000 off. 18 Equinox LT, $5,000 off. 17 Traction Traverse, $5,000 off. Shop us online 24/7 and remember our Saturday parts and service hours. Champion Chevrolet on the Motor Mile in Johnson City, where we leave you asking, how do they do that?
At American Import Auto Repair in Johnson City, one of the 8 areas of your vehicle that takes constant continuing education is the air conditioner on your vehicle.
Well, you would think that AC would be a simple one, but it's getting to be a lot bigger than just AC. It's the management of the system, not just AC, but heat and everything. It's a lot more computer controlled than it used to be. It used to be just a little button on the dash that you pushed. Now there's all kinds of electronics involved in that. Braking systems used to be fairly simple. Now some of the newer vehicles, you have to have a computer to actually operate the braking system to make sure that it's okay after you've worked on it. Computer controlled of the engine is becoming very important. There's a lot to that. Each one of these areas, the technology has just tripled and quadrupled in the last few years. It's hard to keep up. You really need to stay in the books and know what's going on with them.
American Import Auto Repair, Johnson City, open 6 days a week. Call today at 913-3111.
From the driveways where your kids play basketball and ride their bicycles, to the parking lots at your local church or grocery store, Bracken Paving is an important part of many neighborhoods in our area. No matter how large or how small the job, Bracken strives for excellence in every service they provide. It's a foundation for a strong community. Discover the difference at Bracken Paving and Asphalt Maintenance. Give us a call or visit us online at brackenpaving.com.
Your life is always changing. You never know what shape it will take, or how your financial needs might change. But if we talk about your investments and how they can provide for you and your family, the future becomes clear. At Wells Fargo Advisors, we believe conversation leads to financial clarity. Let's start a conversation today.
We're back on the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview Show again on a beautiful Thursday evening. Of course, darkness is upon us now, but what a beautiful, beautiful day. A beautiful night tomorrow night for high school football. Looks like for all intents and purposes for Saturday in our neck of the woods, going to be a beautiful day for college football. The Hokies will be at Boston College. They're out of the area, but ETSU has Robert Morris at home on Saturday. I know when we had Joe Avento on earlier, said all the student tickets are gone. They're expecting a big house for the first homecoming ever at the brand new stadium on Saturday, 3:30 kickoff in Johnson City. The team a little further down the road off this week. Kevin Harmon with us, see on the screen on the phone with the UT football update. And Kevin Harmon, 41-0. It's been documented, well documented, what happened down there last Saturday. We know, as Daddy used to say, before I got a whipping, he'd say, we know the problem. Now, you got to find the solution. We know the problems, I think, at UT. How do you fix it here in this off week?
Well, I think what happened last week, kind of like when you get in trouble as a kid and your dad tells you to go pick up a switch. When you're watching Georgia warm up, you knew that they were the switch, and we were the hind end. That was just a complete wear down and a beat down. You know, we took our first interception, then we immediately fumbled it right back, and you knew right then that we were out of our league. Georgia's got a good football team. I don't know if they're that good, but we are right now that bad. We look bad in all phases. We even had our All-American punter trying to kick it sideways into the back of one of our own players. So it really was a disaster on all sides. So now what you have is, you know, Butch Jones has come out and said that no position is safe. You've gotten hints that Garantano may start against South Carolina. You know, everything is going every which way. It's really, you know, there's so many rumors out there. There's people on talk shows, and you got kids decommitting. It's not a good place to be on Rocky Top right now.
There you go. Boulware quit earlier this week. Vinzel Boulware, I believe I say his name. He stepped away from the program and wants to go in another direction. So, Butch Jones, in fact, Dave Angie was reading an article we're going to have him comment on here in just a few minutes about somebody came out with an article. I'm not sure who it is. I'll let Dave give credit to it here in a second. But they were kind of second-guessing how Tennessee's handling this whole situation. A lot of folks felt like Butch would have gotten fired on Monday morning. He obviously did not. I guess here we are going into Friday now on the off week. I would assume he's weathered the storm at this point. What do you think?
Well, he has at this point. I mean, I don't know what advantage he may have. You know, you got to let him coach out the season. That seems to be the party line in Knoxville. You have, I think, a very good athletic director. You know, you got the powers that be with Peyton Manning, Philip Fulmer, and Jim Haslam, and those guys seem to be behind Curry, and they were behind Butch. I don't know how Peyton Manning and Phil Fulmer feel as much anymore after what happened Saturday, because you had all those guys. It was Peyton Manning Day. Everybody was back. You had a lot of recruits, and they absolutely laid an egg and didn't look good in the process. I can see them. There really isn't, you know, really any advantage. I think the guys deserve a chance to try to turn around this year, but I just don't see the body of work so far this year where that's going to happen. You wonder if it's coaching. You know, Dormady looks very bad. He can't hit his receivers. Of the 9, he was like, 6 for 15. Of the 9 passes he missed, he looked just horrible. They were overthrows, underthrows. Threw him to the wrong guy. The first pass he threw out in the flat was just horrible. I mean, he just stared down the receiver until he felt the receiver got open, and he pulled the trigger, and the quarterback jumped on it. And we're lucky it didn't go for 6. So I think he's deserved the right to. He's in his 5th year. I don't know if he can right the ship. I just don't see it. I just don't see it this year. Tennessee's got a lot of talent. They're very young. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what did you see in the pregame? You said in the warm-ups, you're talking about the switch to Georgia. What did you see Georgia warming up? You knew it was going to be a long afternoon. What was the difference between Georgia and Tennessee in the pregame warm-ups?
Well, Georgia is fast. Even their punters, their kickers, everything that they did was very crisp. And it was just, you know, the way they just guarded and warmed up. Tennessee just did not seem. You know, I've seen many games there. You know, I've seen a season ticket holder for a long time, and they just didn't have that, you know, big game feel to it. When they came out on the field and warmed up, it just didn't. You could just see the difference in the teams. I could, and I was, you know, right then I was thinking they're going to kill us, and you could, you know, I mean, their cornerbacks covered us up in our face. They made big plays. They, you know, ran the football down our throat. They're so much bigger than we were. It just looked like a mismatch, and it looked like we were playing Alabama in a way. I just didn't have a good feel, because, you know, my seats are on the 30, and I'm 20 rows up, and I'm right behind the Georgia bench. And that's, you know, I mean, just watching them warm up and the way they took the field, I just didn't have a good feel, and it was sort of foreshadowed on the very first play when they picked it off, and we did stop them, but up to the point where Sonny Michel made the big run, I thought we had a chance, but we didn't even cross the 20-yard line from what I remember, or 30. Our best play was their fumble, our interception, and we fumbled it back. We didn't have really anything. Our best play really we fumbled on, and John Kelly made the big catch over the middle and he fumbled. We just looked dysfunctional.
talking to Kevin Harmon again, the UT Sports Update, or UT Football Update. So I'm a guy that's real big on body language and nonverbals. I took a couple of courses of that in college as an elective. Didn't want to, but they made me, and it turned out to be probably the best 2 classes I ever took, learning to read people's body language. What I'm hearing people saw at the UMass game and the Georgia game, the Tennessee football players look like for the body language they've checked out on Butch Jones. Would you agree or disagree?
I think Butch Jones has some internal problems that we've seen in the past that are really coming to the head this year. You know, we saw the Jalen Hurd thing. You know, we saw him get tight against Oklahoma. It got you know, there's so many games that he could have won that he didn't because of the way he mismanaged the situation. I think last year with Jalen Hurd and losing that South Carolina game the way we did, and now what you have, from what I'm told, you know, I still have some friends up there, and from what I'm told, there's a big divide in the locker room between the younger and the older players. The guys behind Dormady, the guys behind Garantano. And Bush has promised to Garantano this playing time, and he doesn't look very crisp, you know. But he's promised him this time, and now what you have is you have a division in the locker room. You saw Tyler Bird miss the pass over the middle. Ethan Wolf, you know, he just kind of trudged off the field and gave it a halfway effort to try to catch it. Ethan Wolf runs across the field and calls him out right there on the field. I've never seen that in a Tennessee game. There's a big division there, and I don't, you know, and if you lose the locker room, I think that's what Curry really has to keep an eye on. You can't have your players going south. Those are your best recruiters. Those are the face that you're facing your program. You got John Kelly who's putting on his best face he can. But if you lose that locker room, if you start to get a split and a divide, it's what happened with Johnny Majors when he came back too early with Philip Fulmer. The locker room got divided in half, and Tennessee imploded at that point. They lost to Arkansas and South Carolina. Of course, they lost to Alabama that year, the eventual national champion. But it eventually cost Johnny Majors his job. And I think that's what you may see this year, is if he can't get that locker room regrouped and get the players on the same page, he's going to lose his job. Even if he goes 9-3, if they lose Alabama and win the rest of their games, I'll be shocked. But if he does, you know, that puts Curry in kind of a quandary. He can't fire guys 9-3. So, you know, he's got a decision to make. But I guarantee you, the way it works there, he is not making this decision by himself. He has power brokers in his corner. And I think what happens is that he gets Manning and Fulmer and those guys, those big alums, and then they get their guy, and they will go then to the money guys and say, you know, this is who we want. This is what we think we can do. You know, there's a lot of coaches out there that I think, you know, when Butch Jones came in, nobody wanted the job. But I think now Tennessee would have a better choice of coach. You know, everybody seems to be talking about Dave Durbin at Maryland, and, you know, everybody wants Chip Kelly. I don't think he's going to come here. He doesn't like the South. And so, you know, he can't really tamper with coaches in the middle of the year. So I think he lets him play it out, see what happens. You know, if we lose to Vanderbilt, we lose to Kentucky, we lose to South Carolina, that's big time possible. You know, Alabama beats us 56-0. There's no question he's throwing him, because it'll really split that locker room. The recruits go running. You got Cade Mays already looking to leave, and you know, if he goes, he's the face of that recruiting class. There's a lot of pressure there. There's a lot of pressure in Knoxville right now.
Yep. No question. Great report, my friend. Kevin Harmon, thank you as always. We'll talk to you next week, getting ready for South Carolina, because next week is game week in Knoxville. Have a great week.
Yeah.
Super job. I'll talk to you next Thursday, all right?
All right, man. Thanks, Tom.
Yep, super job. Love that guy. He does a wonderful job. Phenomenal job. Dave, come back here real quick. We got just a few minutes to go before we wrap this thing up. Again, the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview Show, again with our buddy, Dave Onge. We've had Chris McCall talking Hokies, Boston College, Doug Fritz with the high school preview. Of course, we've also had Dave doing the preview of the Region 1 6A, Doug Fritz with the high school picks, Carmichael with the top 5 college football games of the week, and, of course, just now Kevin Harmon with, again, his assessment of the Tennessee football situation. You were off camera, but, you know, I asked him about the nonverbals. Everybody that's been to the games have told me, particularly the last 2 games, UMass and Georgia, that the players look like they've checked out. The body language is there. It's like they don't care. They're going through the motions. I'm not there. I can't say that, but I'm hearing it from a lot of people that are be credible sources. So if he loses the locker room, you know, some of the recruits have decommitted. Boulware's leaving the program. So I think Butch this is me. I think Butch Jones's career rides on South Carolina's game next Saturday. They've had a week off. If they come back out and don't play well, if they lose, number one, if they lose and lose bad, then you got to make a trip to Tuscaloosa the next week. Then you got to go to Lexington the week after that. Those are going to be 2 tough ones on the road. So I think Butch Jones, he better right the ship and come out with a W next Saturday against South Carolina. I don't care how he's got to do it. If he wins by 1 point or 84 points, I think he best win next Saturday.
Well, I think the fate of Butch Jones has probably already been decided. I would imagine, the one thing you have to remember about Tennessee is where they've gotten themselves in trouble on the last couple coaching hires is they fired a coach and then started looking for a new one. I think that's been, it's well documented with Dooley, how many no's they got and how far down. And then you start panicking, then you got to go get somebody. So I think there's some work behind the scenes. At this point, if they've made the decision to move on, they're going to have an agreement in principle with somebody before they ever move on the coaching change at this point, just because of what they've learned from the last few. And I think you look at Chip Kelly being a guy that's sitting on the sidelines right now, wants to coach. He's working with ESPN at the moment, and he's a guy that I think Tennessee would be a good landing spot for him. I think he would agree to come to Tennessee. I think the people at Tennessee are highly motivated to pay the amount of money they'll need to get him in and get things rolling. He'll run the offense they like and they want to see, and that's the way they're going to go. But I'll guarantee you, they're not going to fire a coach until they have somebody else that they're sure is going to come in and take the place, because the recent history has been bad in terms of that.
Great show, man.
Enjoyed it.
Back next week.
Absolutely. And if anybody missed any of this, if you're just now tuning in, catching the last 3 minutes, it's going to be archived. It's going to be on Facebook. Go click it. Go watch it. You have our permission to watch it at work tomorrow if things get slow. We'll certainly give you permission to do that.
And our research shows through Jeremiah Clark and Appalachian Digital, he has told me that a lot of the folks watch this tomorrow and tomorrow afternoon. A lot of people catch it now, but but a good portion of folks are watching it tomorrow when they've got some downtime. And so we, anytime you want to watch it, we appreciate it very much. It's packed full of a lot of good information for 2 hours, I can tell you that, mainly for this guy and the other folks we call stringers that are part of this show, and so we appreciate that very much. Let me go ahead and wrap up real quick and tell you, so we look at Champion Chevrolet Truck Month continues here at Champion in the Bristol Motor Mile, Johnson City. Again, shop online 24/7 at championjc.com. The Silverado Crew Cab All-Stars, walk through these doors. It's amazing. $11,000 off MSRP, and you walk through these doors right off the top. You can't beat that. We're not talking $1,100. We're talking, add that other zero, $11,000 off of these 2017 Silverado Crew Cab All-Stars. Also, the 2017 Cruise and Malibus are 23% off MSRP. The Sonics and the Sparks, 25% off the MSRP. And also, even the 2018s are in. They marked them down right out of the chute. The 2018 Trax are $4,500 off MSRP. And the 2018 Equinox, $6,000 off MSRP on the 18s. And as Tim says on the commercial, how do they do that? Just because it's great customer service. Got some great folks working around here, too. I love it. I want to say thanks again to Chris McCall, Doug Fritz, Dave Onge, Joe Avento, David Carmichael, Kevin Harmon, and, of course, my co-host, as I said, Dave Onge. This is Tom Taylor again joining you tomorrow. We'll be on the road with the Tom Taylor Sports Show from 11 to 1. We'll be live at Food City in Bristol at Euclid Avenue. Sean Witten's going to join us. Mike Hitter's going to join us, the preview at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We got some folks from Charlotte Motor Speedway going to join us by phone. So a big show tomorrow, and we'll have some surprise guests as well, all brought to you by Grip Energy Drink tomorrow. Again, as we said, at Food City on Euclid Avenue in Bristol. Till then, 11 o'clock tomorrow. Again, as Dave said, like this and share it, please. We'd appreciate that. And until we greet you tomorrow at 11 o'clock from Food City in Bristol, we'll tell you, as always, win or lose, be a good sport. And thanks for giving us a listen to the Champion Chevrolet 5-Star Football Preview. So long, everybody.